So good to see everyone and really to be here. It has been an absolutely spectacular day, really 2 days. My wife Greta and also Jessica Palermo and Adam Newman and Diane Dietz from the Big Ten Conference came in. We got in Saturday night, got an opportunity to stay at the Union, and had a great day yesterday that got in here to get a good workout in, and when I got a chance to go to the IU men's basketball game against Maryland last night. And then today has been really magical. I got picked up this morning, thank you, at 5:50 a.m. and at the Union, and was able to come here and get dressed and start my workout. I think I started it actually at about 6:17 a.m. and finished it a little after 7. And then we've been rolling through meetings throughout today, just tours and meeting with Vice President Glass and also President McRobbie and his cabinet, and just touring the Circle of Excellence and getting the chance to really see what makes Indiana University a special place for a young person to come here to get a quality education, to be able to participate at the highest levels from intercollegiate athletics. And I'm just proud to be the commissioner of the Big Ten, and this is my first visit to a school here during my tenure. I made a vow that I was going to see every one of our 350 athletic teams play this year, and so I'll be able to actually see 4 by tonight, and have a few left to go. But also I made a vow that I was going to actually visit every one of our 14 institutions and spend time, and so it's been a spectacular visit. And to say it again, and it goes without saying, what Fred Glass has done during his tenure here has truly been amazing, and I just appreciate his leadership and the way he's done it with style, grace, and class, his integrity, and all the different things that have developed here. And then also a special thank you to President McRobbie, what he has done during his tenure here. He was on the search committee during my interview process, and I'm very grateful that he and I have developed a relationship, and especially with his wife Lori and my wife Greta, and to spend some time here in Bloomington at Indiana University. So with that, it's great to be here. The facilities are fantastic, but most of all, it really is culture. I'm a big culture person, and you can read about culture in books, and you can listen to it on the radio and podcasts, but it's nothing like having an opportunity to go and really see it and feel it. And what has been developed here at this university on behalf of the student athletes is really fantastic. And that's one of the things, all the student athletes, I had a chance to meet with some on the Diversity Council, and even from a leadership group standpoint, I've just made it very clear to them to recognize what they have here from an education standpoint. And I think that's one thing that we really need to make sure that we recognize, that universities and colleges were built in our country to educate people. You know, these are not professional athletes. These are young people who deserve an opportunity to come to be in an environment that's safe, to get a great education, to be able to study an area that they really are passionate about, to have the support system that we have here from a mental health and wellness standpoint, from all the other things that they're doing, the sports psychology, and to really enjoy their time as young people. Adulthood will come soon enough, and they'll have to deal with a lot of the issues that a lot of us in this room have to deal with, and marriage and kids and all those other things that we deal with on a daily basis. But for us to allow them to be young people, to be students, to compete as an athlete, and for us to provide the resources for them to do it at the highest level. And those are the things that I believe in and have believed in from the first day that I stepped on a college campus in 1981. But to see it actually come to life here, especially at one of our schools in the Big Ten, our first visit is really special. So I've enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to go to the women's game tonight to see Indiana play the University of Minnesota, and to watch 2 more of our Big Ten teams play, and then go home tomorrow morning and continue on my journey. But these last 48 hours were really special, and I appreciate you all taking the time and energy to come down for us to spend a few minutes together, and I'll take any questions that you have.
I guess would you say why it's so important for you to make these visits and do the whole trip? I mean, what was kind of the impetus of it, and why is it such an important thing to do?
You know, I'm a big believer, and I was raised in a manner that it's one thing to read things in books. My mother was a librarian. My father was a school teacher and a professor. So books are important, and I love to read, and you can learn so much. But it's also another thing to really make sure that you go and live it. And so for me, to effectively, I felt very strongly about, for me to be able to say I'm commissioner of the Big Ten and to do my job at the highest possible level, it was important for me to go and spend the time, visit time with administrators and the presidents and our athletic directors and our student athletes and our senior women administrators and faculty athletic reps, but really to get a chance to have conversations with our students who also double as athletes, and to get a sense for what's important to them, why is it important, what we can do better from a conference level, just to be able to ask those questions. And so, and also to be able to see them compete. I mean, sitting in Assembly Hall yesterday, watching that game, I mean, that was a great Big Ten basketball game, but to be able to feel that firsthand. But I want everyone at our 14 schools to understand, as far as I'm concerned, as far as our conference office is concerned, that we're here. And not only in name only, but we truly are here as the Big Ten Conference for our member institutions and even our student athletes. So I wanted to hear from them, and that's why this year is going to be such an amazing journey, and how much I've learned even these last 48 hours. I can only imagine as I sit down with my wife, hopefully over a great dinner on New Year's Eve this year, and be able to talk about all the things that we've been able to discuss. And I'm grateful that she's going to be there, be there with me. And we're taking great notes. We're taking a lot of pictures. We're putting together books. And I think what you'll find out is some unique opportunities will come out of this journey. And so I feel that's the way for me to be able to really express and articulate what I feel about these member institutions and ultimately our student athletes.
Yeah, Coach, you discussed them not, or other Commissioner, you discussed this not being professional athletes, yet there's a lot of reform coming in the NCAA with regards to name, image, and likeness. I'm curious about your thoughts on that issue, where you stand and where you think the conference is going to stand going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 25 days into my job. Quite naturally, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this issue and starting now to really work through all of these issues. From a personal standpoint, I think it's really important, and we've done a good job of it, but is the system in college sports, broken? I think there's an opportunity that exists now for us to improve it, and I think the biggest thing I know from my personal standpoint will be the fact that we need to continually, and especially during this time, to make sure that the decisions that we're making regarding name, image, and likeness and pay for play is ask ourselves honestly, are the student athletes that we're talking about, are they at the core of all of our decisions? I mean, so it's one thing to make decisions and then at a certain point in time in that decision-making process to bring a student athlete into that discussion. I'm a big believer we need to start with them and ask ourselves from an honest standpoint, the decisions that we make, what will be in the best interest for our student athletes? And so many times in life and community and society that people think just money solves all issues. Just if you have a group of individuals or a group of people, or you have an issue that you can't really resolve, that it may require some work, that is complicated, well, just pay the person some money and it makes it go away. I don't want to take that easy road. I would rather, which I'm doing now, is working through the different issues and trying to figure out ways that if we keep our students who happen to be athletes, they're not professional athletes, what can we do to make sure they have the best opportunity to succeed while they're on our campuses, but most of all, even upon graduation. And I just think that as we work through these issues, especially by putting them first and foremost and realizing that we're here to educate them, are they great athletes? Yes. Will a handful of them go on to be professional athletes? Yes. Will some go on to be Olympians? Yes. But at the end of the day, these are young people who are in college to get a good education, who happen to be talented athletes, that we need to make sure that we make our decisions based upon what's in the best interest of them. So I'm looking to working through this with my constituents, with our various schools, and come up with a way that really, when we take a step back to say that makes sense. And I feel like I'm in a great position to do that. We currently, Greta and I have a son who's a football student athlete at Mississippi State in the SEC. And so a lot of these issues that I'm working through myself with our current student athletes, I can get a good feel for what Powers has gone through, what some of his teammates that are spread around the country. Some of his teammates, he has a lot of teammates because we grew up in Big Ten country who are Big Ten schools. And I just get a sense that there's a way to make sure we create an environment that will last and be built to last going forward, where our student athletes are truly taken care of and we provide them with the resources that they need, instead of just taking a way out to just say the best thing to do to solve this issue is to pay somebody some money.
Just to elaborate on both of sort of your first 2 points there, what are the questions you're asking, both to athletes, to administrators, in general, when you're making these visits? I mean, what are the questions that you're asking to everybody up and down the line to try to get a full picture of what you're dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ones I asked today, I mean, the questions I've asked, and I can tell you what they are, were if you were commissioner, what would be your focal point? And even give me a word, what do I need to focus on? What would you focus on if you were commissioner for the day, or if you were actually commissioner? And it's amazing, our young people, our students, our athletes, they are really bright, they're really thoughtful, they really care, and they're really compassionate. And so many times, it's easy as an adult to start coming up with answers, but we see it through the eyes of an adult. But I want to see it through the eyes of what's important to our student athletes on campus, and to ask the questions to them. So that's one of the things that I've asked to them. And then I would ask them, and I asked them today, is that what are some gaps, in what they're going through? How can we help? What are there, it's not only them, but what are the students here on campus who don't participate in intercollegiate athletics, what are they talking about? And then what are their friends and family that go to other schools across the country, what are they talking about? And so that's the good thing about it, is that you're able to talk to a really bright group of young students who are athletes here at Indiana, and you get a good sample size as far as issues they're facing, issues that the entire student body is facing, and issues that other students who also participate in intercollegiate athletics at other member institutions in the Big Ten or around the country are facing. And so that's what the good thing about it, we've been able to talk about that. And one of the things that Fred has done really an unbelievable job with the support of President McRobbie and others here, is that they've broken down the walls between, oh no, that's an athletic department question, or no, that's an academic question, or they've pushed and pulled against each other. The sense that I've received since I've been here in Indiana is that this is an environment that's built, that they recruit players in a holistic manner. It's a transparent environment. They want these young people to get a chance to be students first and foremost. They want these young people to have the resources to be able to succeed, and they want to give them the coping skills that not only do they can succeed while they're here at Indiana, but also to succeed really upon graduation. And maybe it's no different than even if going with them on how to grocery shop, how to eat properly. Those are skills that are important, yes, if you're participating in intercollegiate athletics, but those skills will carry you when you're 50, 60, 70, years old. So the good thing about it is they're changing a paradigm for not only this current generation, but also future generations, which is great. So those are the things that I've been really asking and really spending time to be thoughtful with, as we continually formulate these ideas.
Did you hear any answers that particularly enlightened you, maybe that you didn't see coming or anything like that? Was there, I'm sure you go in this with a basis, but did anything that you heard tell you something you didn't know?
Well, I tell you, I think it clarified some issues, is that I had heard, recently, and just talking to various students who participate in intercollegiate athletics in our conference and in other conferences, and even my son, I got a sense that there's a certain level of compassion with our students who are intercollegiate athletes, that they really are concerned that as we start working through these name, image, and likeness issues, or just survival issues, what impact does it have on Title IX? What does it have for our Olympic sports? What will it do to their friends that participate in Olympic sports? That they are very thoughtful young people, and they're taking a holistic approach to this to understand that they really want to know the issues. So that's what I sensed in my heart many months ago, And the conversations I had recently reiterated that, but these last 48 hours solidified it, that these are people who talked about compassion and about creating, making sure an environment from a holistic standpoint. And there were some things that came out. I am absolutely, one of my key cornerstones is the mental health and wellness of our students on campus. All of our students, and especially the ones who participate in intercollegiate student athletes. That's what I felt in my heart. And then to have these conversations, what it did, it just reiterated that those are issues that we need to make sure that we're addressing. And so it's fulfilling to me that a lot of my gut instincts or just communicating with people are on target. So the mental health and wellness is a big issue, which is a big issue for me personally. The financial literacy of our student athletes. You know, we had a lot of discussion today about voter registration. And I was really pleased to see the number of our student athletes who are registered to vote. But then I'm a big believer in good, better, best. What can we do to make it best? Now, what can we do to really have a voter registration initiative, not only with our student athletes here at Indiana University, but then campus-wide, but then how can we replicate that around our 14 schools? And primarily just from an education standpoint, because back to what I've said, they're going to need to understand the electoral process. You know, what does it take to be voted to become a senator or a congressperson or whatever the case may be? They're going to need to understand how that works. And of all the years coming up, this is a great time to do it because we have an election coming up. And I'm a big believer that society presents us with many opportunities for us to learn, and we might as well do it together. And because our student athletes are thought leaders, that you will find a lot of students who may not have even thought about mental health and wellness or financial literacy or voter registration that have done in the proper manner, in the proper environment with our athletes, that they will follow that lead. And so I'm looking forward to creating some of these conference-wide initiatives to bring awareness to issues that maybe have not been spoken about in the past, but we have a unique opportunity to be able to do it now going forward.
You may have touched on this a little bit already, but the Big Ten has a history of being a leader in college athletics.
Yes.
What do you see as your vision to help the conference kind of maintain that leadership, both in the short term and longer term, to help it continue to grow for the benefit of the athletes?
And one of the things, and I said this, earlier to a group, that Jim Delaney did such an unbelievable job these last 31 years, and I love history, and so when I think about that, the Big Ten Conference was founded in 1896, and the first commissioner, John Griffith, was 1922, and then Tug Wilson, and then William Reed, and then Wayne Duke, and Jim Delaney. I think there's only been 5 humans on the face of the earth since 1896 who've been commissioner of this conference, and none of which who look like me. And so for me to be an African-American person in this position is important. It's not why I got the job. I don't want to make it a big deal, but it's relevant. And why is it relevant is it goes back to the Big Ten always being on the cutting edge, on the forefront. I mean, you look what's happened here at Indiana. With Talafaro, being the first African-American player to be drafted in the NFL. But not only that, but then to see his statue and read his history, but the most powerful line, I took a picture of the statue, is at the bottom. He was humanitarian. There's so many things, but these are the kind of lessons, educational lessons, back to saying that our student athletes are here for an education, that I would love when a team comes to Bloomington to play in a sporting event, not only football, but if you're a field hockey team, that the coaches take the time to bring them over to see and tell that story. And so what I'm excited about from the Big Ten, we've been on the cutting edge from diversity and inclusion, on women's rights, on Title IX, on the media rights. The deal that the Big Ten, the creation of the Big Ten Network. There were a lot of people who advised me, even after I took the job, that I should not have taken it, because they said there's no other place that I could take it, because everything was there. The network was done. Jim had been here for 31 years. He's an iconic leader, and you know what? I'm one of those people that I love to figure out a way, to take already an A organization, but how do I go and get the top score in the class, and which is difficult to do. And so this organization is in good shape, and so I'm spending time and energy and effort to try to come at things a little bit differently. Doesn't make it right or wrong, but just differently. and look for those opportunities that we can continually distinguish ourselves from all the other conferences and be leaders in these areas. And I will have no problem in being very vocal on a lot of these issues that maybe people have only felt comfortable to talk about around their dining room tables or in the barber shops or on family vacations. I want to make sure we bring these issues to the forefront, because at the end of the day, it will make us all better, especially here in the Big Ten Conference, but it'll make all of our conferences, and it will provide a better environment for our student athletes to succeed in life. Yes, sir.
One of the things, sorry that you talking about this, because it was media rights, the Big Ten Network, obviously the last, I'd say, 10 to 12 years have really been a boom for college athletics across, with the Big Ten being kind of at the front edge of that. With kind of growing concerns about the changing nature of TV viewership, how do you think the conference stays at the front edge of that, when that has obviously been such a game changer financially for its institution?
And those are the things, you hit something on it. I know it sounds crazy, but I really think about how we disseminate our games and our events literally every single day. And I not only think about it, I work on it every single day. And that's back to, how do you go from an A in a class to the top grade in the class, is that creative nature. I truly believe still at the end of the day, and especially things are cyclical, but the way that even with the younger folks and watching information on and games on their portable devices, at the end of the day, there's something special about sitting in front of a television. Now, they may change the name of what that device is called, but where I'm excited about doing it is growing all of those opportunities for us to continually grow our media platform. And have already started to formulate, ways. And again, it's changing. And so I'm constantly thinking about what is the best way from a 1 to 3 to 5 to 7, 10, and even, because I have some crazy thoughts, what will this look like 100 years from now? And so I'm always trying to figure out ways for us to make sure that we can continually grow those relationships and bring on new fans. That's why it's so important from a branding standpoint, is that our brands, our 14 institutions, we have to make sure that we keep those brands wholesome and solid, and our conference, that we make sure we keep them wholesome and solid. Because for us to continually get viewers, is that we're going to need to make sure that our brands are strong, and we're recruiting the right people, not only to coach and lead our organizations, but recruiting the right players. It was one of the things I love so much. I just love kids, and the baby crawl at halftime of the game was spectacular. I've been thinking about that all day today. But the other thing is that there were 2 kids that sat behind us that were probably anywhere from 8 to 11 years old, and their basketball vernacular was amazing. And one of the things that Indiana, his university, has done very well, and all of our Big Ten institutions have done well, and I want to make sure that we continually grow, is the growth of our young people, is to make sure that we capture them early on, create environments. It may be through sports, it may be through a conference where they get a chance to work on computers. But when you look at our alumni base, some of the alumni that we have in our conference, and what we need to do is continually at the conference level be creative to make sure that we capture our young fans early on, provide them with wholesome experiences that they will remember forever, and that they end up going into one of our institutions. So all that goes into how we package our product, how we continually grow and refine our Big Ten network, how do we make it better, how do we communicate, having more Olympic sports events on television, more live events, our student view broadcasts. And so there are a lot of things that I've been working on, will constantly work on, but all the way up to our network partners to see how we can solidify those relationships and make sure that we grow them, and that our Big Ten brand keeps growing every single year, and that we're there. I want to meet all of our fans, whatever way you want to consume our information, whether that's from a social media standpoint or for a game standpoint, Olympic sports, or one of our football, basketball sports. I want to make sure to be able to meet our fans, where they are. And so that's why collecting of information, learning about the way fans are consuming information is going to be really important.
You touched a little bit on the mental health aspect of it all. And what are the steps that you think the league and the schools individually have to take to make sure that the proper stuff is in place for these athletes?
Yeah, the first step, and that's a great question, is one to talk about it, just what we're doing. And there's been so many times over life that you had a negative stigma if you showed, any concern or interest of getting some mental health and wellness. And most of these things, I'm a big believer. Like I said, I love to read, I love to watch television at certain times. I love a good movie at certain times. I wish I watched more of them. But one thing is nothing like putting your eyes on it, and it's also nothing like experiencing something. And I go back, I had a very bad car accident as an 11-year-old boy, and lucky to have survived, blessed to have survived, promised myself that I would try to make the world a better place. But one of the things that I learned out of that entire process, with a compound fracture of my femur and traction and a body cast, and just, it really changed my life. It made me who I am today. It made me appreciate it. It gave me an upper hand to recognize that life is fragile. But throughout all those meetings that I had with doctors and physical therapists and all these other people, not one single time did someone come and say, you know what, we probably should get someone for you to talk with. And not one time. And it was traumatic. And so over time now, I've had to figure it out over my life as far as what works and what doesn't work. But that was an experience that I had to live and have lived my entire life. So I know I want to make sure that if our student athletes need help and they have concerns, they're struggling, whether they're depressed or whether they're, have anxiety or whether it's doing family, crisis issues or final exams or relationships, male or female relationships, or anxiety over a big game, that I want to make sure that they know that we are there. And some of the studies that I've read recently are disturbing. When you look at the number of people on our campuses who have contemplated suicide or said they felt lonely during the last year, or even the feeling of hopelessness. And that's a word that when you become hopeless, you've pretty much given up on your life. And I just want to make sure to reiterate how much we at the conference, appreciate our administrators, our presidents, our provosts, our student athletes, our coaches, that people here in these environments that need to know that we're sensitive to the mental health and wellness of our student athletes. And so we're going to work on a holistic program. We're in the process of doing it right now to gather all the information, to put people in the right place, not only at the institutions, but from a conference level. I think the biggest thing we're doing is that we're having these conversations. I mean, in the past, prior years, just in general in society, that people wouldn't talk about it. And so I wanted to make it where it's that you need to be proud if you can stand forward and raise your hand and say, yeah, I need some guidance and assistance, and that we stand ready as a conference and also our member institutions to be able to address those issues and make sure we create people, provide environments for our young students who participate in a very demanding intercollegiate athletic schedule, that they're comfortable to talk about it, but also that we have the resources that can satisfy their needs. Yes, sir.
Obviously, men's basketball, Big Ten team hasn't won a national title since 2000. One of the things that some observers, even some coaches and players have mentioned kind of behind the scenes is some, I guess, bubbling concerns about style of play. Some people even call it tackle basketball, hockey basketball, that kind of stuff. When you look at men's basketball and how successful it's been historically, when you look at the style of play, do you have concerns, and are there things maybe that other leagues are doing that are giving them some advantages that maybe the Big Ten needs to start looking at?
That's a wonderful question. I really am pleased with our style of play. I mean, you think now, and I think the numbers may have changed with the AP rankings, but having 5 teams out of the top 25, not only on the men's standpoint, but we also have some great women's teams. I think basically our demanding style of our physical style that people have called other things, tackle basketball or hockey basketball, I think it's going to be in years like this that it's going to play dividends. I think that's one of the reasons why our teams have done well. We've had some big wins at home. We've had some big wins on the road. We're physical. And if you look at entering to this tournament right now, I mean, how many weeks have we had a different number 1 team? I mean, it's all over the board. And these are the kind of years that tough, demanding, physical nature of Big Ten basketball, I think is going to play dividends not only in our conference tournament, but also as we get into March Madness and hopefully into the Final Four, and hopefully from a national championship standpoint. So I'm looking forward to it. One good thing I'm glad to see is that even with the 3-point line being extended, is that we have some really good shooters in our conference. And so I think there are a couple teams in our conference that if they can stay healthy and continually play hard and play good defense, because that's one thing that we've always done in this conference, and shoot the ball well, we have some teams that can go really far, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think far and away right now, depending on how these next couple weeks ends up, but we could end up having a very large number of our teams, in the tournament. And so I'm confident. I like the style of our play. I think it's physical. They play defense, they play hard, they pass, and we shoot the ball well. We have excellent coaches and excellent players. So I think this year is going to be a really exciting year, and I think our teams are going to do really well, especially here down the stretch, because they're so physically and emotionally and mentally strong. So I think this is going to be a great year of how we fare in the tournament. Yes. Question.
So I guess something that is kind of frequently brought up from the outside, maybe not directly from internally, is just the idea of divisions in football and kind of the way that they align based on where schools are located, east and west. Obviously changed from a couple of years ago, but just from the internal side of things, I know you've only been kind of in the transitional role since September, but what did you notice in the 1 year of Big Ten football that you're kind of around, and if any discussion we could have on changing divisions?
Yeah, I think, quite naturally, again, one good thing about being a new member to the Big Ten family is you can ask questions that some people may not feel comfortable in asking because they don't want to be embarrassed. I can ask all the new member questions. And so one of the things that I've asked myself is to say that, what do I feel about conference structure and, and conference, alignment, and is it structured properly? Is there a better way to do it? Those are things that I will absolutely. I have made a promise to myself. I made a promise to the presidents and anyone who I talk with that I'm going to evaluate everything. Now, it may be a short evaluation and say how it's structured now is perfect and it's working, but it's definitely something that I want to make sure that we take a look at. And one thing I noticed you can't make determinations on how teams have done or how teams are doing. Because if you just look what happened, this year in the Big Ten, I mean, Indiana had a great season. University of Minnesota had a great season. So, they're things. I mean, years bring different results. But I just want to make sure to look at the structure to see if it's structured properly. And over the next course of the year, with a lot of the other things I'm looking at, quite naturally, I'll take a step back and see, what works, what works the best. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, we had our two best teams in the championship in Indianapolis, and it turned out to be a great football game. I mean, having Wisconsin and Ohio State was a great football game. And so, as you see those things come together, you have to think by and large that the way it's been structured has worked. But one thing about me, I'm constantly a person that's constantly measuring, thinking what's best. And back to the good,